Do not F with Bitcoin.
Defend the network, don't F with the network. Make sure the network is healthy. Don't introduce risks, unnecessary risks to the network that might infect it with the disease.
It appears Michael Saylor has just drawn a line in the sand and has joined the Spam Wars debate. Now, this clip we're about to watch and react to today is from a 2024 interview on what Bitcoin did. I actually think we did do something on this last year, but what makes it timely now, today, is a guy on X, Bitcoin Anon, did this edit. And it just so happens that Michael Saylor retweeted it, giving a subtle nod to knots and a possible blasting at what developers are doing in Core 30. But there's more in here. Did Michael Saylor hint that what Core 30 is doing could bring about the dumping of their Bitcoin holdings and bankruptcy for Strategy? And hypothetically, what could that mean for BlackRock? Is Bitcoin Core 30 on the brink of collapse? Let's go, ladies and gentlemen. We have a big one today. Saylor enters the Spam Wars. Send it.
There's like a new guard of Bitcoin developers and an old guard of Bitcoin developers. The old guard's very conservative, and the new guard is wanting them to move out of the way because they want to do things, they want to build things.
If you were to ask me my opinion on Bitcoin development, I would say considerate and conservative. I think ossification is a straw man put forth by people that have a progressive proposal. And if someone says, hold it now, let's think about it, right? They can say, well, you just don't want to change anything. Well, I mean, the truth is, I think it's a mistake to presume that you have to change the protocol in order for Bitcoin to be successful.
Right, okay, so you could almost like partition this between what is opcodes and expansion of what the protocol can do versus, when, like you said, integrity and security, protection of the network from catastrophic failures, attacks, hacks. Are you seeing those as two different things?
Defend the network, don't F with the network. Make sure the network is healthy. Don't introduce risks, unnecessary risks to the network that might infect it with the disease. Let me just make a point about philosophy though. The Bitcoin protocol is the essential governance. It's the government of Bitcoin, the nation. If Bitcoin was a nation, the protocol is the body of laws that govern the nation, and the protocol has no statute of limitations. So for all practical purposes, when you put something in the protocol, it's like writing a law that might very well last 1,000 years. So that being the case, if you ask me what is my philosophy about politics, I'm in favor of small government, not big government. I'm in favor of less, not more. I'm in favor of free markets, not government-mandated agencies. If there's a choice between should the government do it or should a corporation or a free actor do it, I think the government should stay out of it. And in the same way, I'm not in favor of big protocol. I'm in favor of small protocol. I'm in favor of do the minimum. If you believe the government should do the minimum to control your life, you believe that the protocol should do the minimum, because it's very hard, to reverse this. And if you look at the history of civilization, every empire starts small and struggling. It's the underdog, and you're trying to struggle to live. And then at some point they win. And when they win, they conclude that they're the most virtuous, and then they get rich. And then when they get rich, they start creating more laws, and those laws get to be ridiculous, and they create inflation. And I think most people in the Bitcoin community are against inflation, and I think we're against regulation. And the whole irony is Bitcoin is a technology to escape oppression of inflation and regulation. So why would we want to encourage inflation in the protocol?
Is it not absolute hubris to hold this belief that you have to change Bitcoin in order for Bitcoin to be successful? It seems to be a common trope, among shitcoiners and VCs, small blockers, and all the other bullshit. I agree with Giga Chad. You don't with the network. We have one shot at this. Bitcoin or slavery is not entirely hyperbole. JPEGs and stablecoins do not empower individuals. They don't end the Fed. And they are distractions to keep people poor and to extract value from people to then enrich themselves. It's the same old game. Basically, Bitcoin Core are like the pigs in Animal Farm. Some animals are equal, but some are more equal than others. Bow before us. Well, how about you shove your stupid rainbow shitcoining flip-flops up your cornholes? Now let's see what else Saylor had to say about inflation at the protocol level and what that can lead to.
If I dump another million lines of code that does when I'm adding functionality and performance and scalability via features and I'm writing all this code, I'm creating inflationary dynamics in the protocol. What is inflation? I'm devaluing something else, whatever that else is. I might be undermining the security, I might be undermining the simplicity, the protocol is encroaching on the free market. And code is law, right? When you write code, you're just writing a law in cyberspace, right? I mean, software developers are the lawyers of cyberspace when they write law. And you write code for your application, like Cash App, it's a layer 3 app. You're risking your shareholders' money and your corporate credibility, but you're not going to crash the Bitcoin network. When you write code for layer 2, you've got to be a bit more consensus driven because now there's 100 or 1,000 other companies that have to work with your Lightning or work with your whatever, and you have to go 100 times slower. But when you write code for layer 1, the protocol, today we have $1.4 trillion, and we are in the third stage. I think the second stage was like the block size wars around then, where there was something very valuable and there was some serious issues to be worked out, and you had multiple camps, and the protocol did suffer inflation. SegWit was inflation. It took the block from 1 megabyte to 4 megabytes, right? So you could do things with SegWit that you couldn't do before. It wasn't necessarily good for the Bitcoin miners, right? The point is, if you increase the block size and you change that dynamic, it's not clear you didn't bankrupt a bunch of Bitcoin miners that would still be in business today. So, we can go back and forth, but it stands to reason that when you add functionality or scalability or performance, you're actually depriving someone else in the ecosystem of their property rights, of their opportunity. So that is inflationary, and it inflates. It'd be obvious if you just took 21 million to 42 million. That's first order inflation. But when you increase the bandwidth from 1 megabyte blocks to 4 megabyte blocks, that's second order inflation. If I take the transaction bandwidth up by a factor of 100, that's hyperinflation of the bandwidth in the second order. That would bankrupt all the Bitcoin miners. And so if you bankrupt all the Bitcoin miners, there's an ethical lapse, there's an economic lapse, and there's also a thermodynamic or a security lapse. And not only are you depriving the Bitcoin miners of their property, you're also depriving the Bitcoin holders of their security, and you're undermining the political stability, the economic stability of the holders as well as the miners. And you're doing it maybe to create fast blocks or more bandwidth. I accepted the risks of the existing protocol. When someone changes the protocol so as to bankrupt me, right, they have actually deprived me of my economic rights and introduced a risk I didn't sign up for.
Now that was a doozy. Risks that I didn't sign up for, that would eliminate his and many's faith and trust in the stewards of the network and possibly in the network itself. Kind of like this. Sacrificing sound money for JPEGs and arbitrary data is like going to proof of stake, or the purge or the surge and the splurge and all the turds that come springing out of the mother of all shitcoins, Ethereum. May it rot in hell. But ironically, a lot of these shitcoining degenerates at Core seem to admire Mr. Vitalik Buterin. Maybe it's the rainbow flip-flops, but it probably explains their desire to, act against consensus. Now we gotta get to this clip, but before we do, and before you tell me to GFY in the comments, look at our likes.
3 or 4 times, maybe.
I gotta pump those numbers up. Those are rookie numbers in this racket.
Let's take a quick second for our sponsors who keep this show on the air over at the Bitcoin Way. If your wealth lives in their system, it's not yours, it's theirs. That's why we scream Bitcoin. That's why you use self-custody, and that's why you call our friends over at the Bitcoin Way. They'll walk you through multi-sig, self-custody, privacy, how to run a node, how to run knots, and the tools that keep you sovereign when the fiat system pulls the plug. Don't wait until it's too late. Book a free 30-minute consult today using that link in the show notes. Need cash but don't want to sell your Bitcoin? Ledn is the global leader in Bitcoin-backed loans, issuing over $9 billion in loans since 2018, and they were the first to offer proof of reserves. With Ledn, you get custody loans, no credit checks, no monthly payments, and more. Visit learn.ledn.io/simply to learn more and get 25 basis points off your first loan.
That's the ethical distinction which converts something, in some cases, from a commodity to a security. I'm a lawyer. I go to London. I lobby a politician to pass a law making it illegal for soccer clubs to operate in Bedford. And in response, the lawyer passes the law because I gave him a campaign donation and I explained how I wanted to turn Bedford into the next Disney World. And it's going to bring jobs at Disney. And I think that you would be irate if a lawyer or a lobbyist was lobbying for laws that impact your family, your business, your friends, and I would be like, oh, it's just the free market. Okay, I went to DC and I got a law passed that made the pipeline illegal. Oh, who paid me to get the law passed? The other pipeline. So there's one guy that's got $50 billion because he's got the only pipeline, and the second pipeline was shut down by some lobbying in DC. I view that as corruption. And so I think that if you're able to deprive some economic actor in your nation or your network of billions of dollars or millions or hundreds of thousands or trillions of dollars of economic property rights by lobbying to actually change the law, right? I think that introduces moral hazard. And so I think that protocol changes. For example, proof of work to proof of stake, it destroyed the Ethereum miners. It was a very targeted protocol change that basically deprived, what's it worth to basically do Ethereum mining? Well, it would have been worth $100 billion. What's it worth today? 0. Bitcoin would be a lot better if the protocol was stable. If you sacrifice the performance and the stability of the network to introduce altcoin, crypto, shitcoin features into the network, right? You've deprived people of their rights. If you hijack the Bitcoin mining hardware in order to do other applications other than SHA-256 hashing to defend Bitcoin, you've undermined the security of the Bitcoin holders. You have destabilized the network. You may have introduced all sorts of attack vectors for hackers, and also legal risks, regulatory risk, and nation-state attack vectors. And so there are lots of protocol changes that actually destabilize the network, or they deprive some participants of the network of their rights to the benefit of others. And my position is, I just don't think we should deprive people of their rights. And I don't think we should use code in order to advantage one special interest group to the disadvantage of everybody else.
Now, a couple things that stood out to me in that one, that would be the 2 words, moral hazard. Moral, money, crypto. What does that have to, morals and that, what the does that have to do with this stuff? Well, actually, sound money has integrity. It has value. It enables and empowers individuals. It protects them from the most insidious entity on the planet in the central banks that have stolen time, wealth, energy from the public at infinitum. especially since 1913. Temporarily went off the gold standard to fund World War I. And of course, we had Woodrow Wilson, the worst president in history. All these things. Couldn't live with sound money because he didn't have integrity and value. You see how this works? And then you see how when you start to degrade the money, when the money loses integrity and value, what happens to society? Like, how obvious is it? This is what happens. Possibly, not saying this in and of itself, but this sets a pathway towards something. And I think that line that he talked about, destabilize the network, that's an interesting line. Because I've always kind of thought if there would be no way, like Bitcoin in and of itself can't be with. Unwithable money. The only thing that could slow down, deter, do something stupid would be to introduce some sort of social attack to get people to act not in their own best interest, either out of fear, coercion, or just, sly roundabout ways. And this kind of feels like that. Kind of a little bit from both sides going a little over the top. But maybe that's the purpose of it. But we'll get to more of that in just a second, because guess who else signed up for sound money? Uncle Larry. And guess who orange pilled him? Michael Saylor.
And we used to bring in all these different people who were big believers in it, like Michael Saylor from MicroStrategies. I mean, Michael came to our office when the stock was in the teens, but he was a huge believer in it, transformed his company. I mean, I could just say all these different people came in and talked. And then we became, we became a leader in working with the SEC and in trying to move forward in this. And fast forward now, a little more than 18 months when we first started creating a Bitcoin ETF. Today, IBIT is $86 billion.
Now we think about it. GigaChat is near what, like 700,000 Bitcoin. Larry Fink and the ETFs have gobbled up 1 million. If there were a way or means to, or an excuse to dump on the public, something like this might be something that they would use. Possibly. Hypothetically. I'm just thinking. I'm brainstorming out here, but listening to what GigaChat said, knowing his ties with Larry Fink and those things. Now, does that stop Bitcoin? No, but it would set it back for a long, quite some time. To recover would be absolutely insane. Plus the hornet's nest that would come from that. Bitcoin would continue. But as far as the path to the world reserve currency, that would be definitely set back like a decade or two, if something like that were to happen. Now, I don't think this does, but I do believe in the slippery slope. When people act against consensus, when they disregard the network to implement things that don't provide value to the monetary network for which it was based and built to end central banks. It is base level money. It is the soundest form of money we've ever discovered or created. And that's not something to be with. What I do think happens from here is that inadvertently they created a new free market when it comes to these clients. There may be different things that come from that in the future, but people will have alternatives and people will have alternative mining pools. Just like Ocean is being introduced, and now we have Datum and Stratum and people able to build their own templates. There may be markets for certain transactions. And all of this could just blow all over in the end. But when you have something precious, you want to protect it. And it's not because it's so much precious for us. It's for this future that we have an opportunity at, and we are in the midst of building all together. Like, I think even people like Call BTC, we may disagree on some of this, but the dude is incredible. You see what he did with BitChat and this new iMessage app. People are doing great things. And we can't get lost in the weeds or allow something to turn into some sort of social attack, or that gets others afraid of competition entering the market, or understanding that your actions may have ramifications. And that's what happens. When you lose trust, it's going to be very hard to gain back. And that's where knots has come in. People not running Core 30. Or there's also Libitcoin under development. So the free market is kind of blossoming from this. And I think what if it was all a psyop to get more people running nodes? At the end of the day, what if that was it? Brilliant. But either way, let me know what you think below. And me and Sophie have each come out with an episode on the core versus knots and that, so we'll leave that at the end. Oh, and before we wrap, grab those tickets to Mining Disrupt 2025 and see the future of Bitcoin mining up close in Dallas, Texas, November 11th through the 13th. The biggest names in the industry, cutting edge rigs, Bitcoin and AI integration, the signal you won't get anywhere else. Grab your tickets today and use promo code SimplyBitcoin for 20% off, and we'll see you there. Oh, and yeah, we just found out me and Opti are speaking, so hell yeah, we'll see you there. Hopefully I don't it up. Hey, hope you guys enjoyed this one. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and give us a pamp, and set those notifications for the best in Bitcoin news delivered to you daily. Hey, I love you guys. Keep your head on a swivel. Sophie, Dante, Oceans, heaters, bangers coming your way. And, well, shit. I'll see you guys next time. Love you. Peace.
If you prefer to go down with the ship, you.